We have some hard conversations that are going to be happening in Florham Park this week because this one is getting extremely interesting. Derek Carr visiting with the team, and I'm told that it was a very positive meeting, that the Jets really believe that Derek Carr is the type of quarterback that can lead them to a potential championship. They also believe that the meeting went really well. Here's the rub, though. Aaron Rodgers still lingers, and the team also remains fascinated in the possibility of adding him. So why is that a problem? The timeline. Right now, we're looking at a situation where Aaron Rodgers hasn't even gone to the Packers to say whether he wants to be traded. We don't know if the Packers would be willing to trade him. We obviously know that there's a decision to be made there. So do the Jets go hard for Derek Carr now, or do they risk potentially losing him and waiting it out for Aaron Rodgers? It is an ultimate predicament. I expect hard conversations within Florham Park to figure out which direction they go on their quarterback position.
Okay, Mike T, you've been in that position there in Florham Park. It is Aaron Rodgers that we're talking about. So we're talking about one of the best, obviously, quarterbacks to ever do it. What do you think? What should the Jets do?
Sign Derek Carr. It's certainty. When we pursued and were able to get Brett Favre, we had a good quarterback in Chad Pennington. The Jets have no alternative now. Plus, with Aaron Rodgers, you have to give up draft choice compensation. As D. Wood said a year ago, look, I don't think Derek Carr played great last year. 28th in the league in completion percentage, 27th interceptions. But he does give you some veteran stabilization at a position where you've just been terrible. So to me, I don't want to wait on Aaron Rodgers. When you're running an NFL franchise, you want certainty and you want leadership from the quarterback position. If I was going to sign Aaron Rodgers, it would be a 2-year deal with a massive guarantee in year 2. But at least you know with Derek Carr, he'd be there for the offseason program, and it's marked improvement over where you were a year ago.
You want a veteran quarterback, Woody, so then who's the better fit? Is it Carr? Is it Rodgers?
I mean, listen, you got to take everything in consideration. Not only play, draft compensation. You know, you still got to build your roster up. And when I look at everything in its totality, I'm going with Derek Carr. We know Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback. There's no question about that. But I think when you look at the Jets, this is not a team that's just all of a sudden we got everything in place. All we just need a quarterback. No, they got offensive line issues. They still got pieces that they need to add to this roster in order for them to take that next step. And so if you go the Aaron Rodgers route, albeit, that would be obviously great for New York and for us to talk about, you're going to be giving up assets that can help you build out your roster. And so for me, I look at it as, let me sign the guy that I can sign right now. Aaron Rodgers is off in his retreat or whatever. I got Derek Carr who's ready to sign with anybody right now who will fill a void that, quite honestly, the Jets have been terrible at the quarterback position, one of the worst positions in the National Football League over the last decade.
You're right about that. You go back to 2010, because of the young guys, Sanchez, Wilson, Sam Darnold, the Jets have thrown the most interceptions and the fewest touchdown passes since 2010 at that quarterback position. So then, Jeff, I mean, what does that mean if you say, hey, we had a great conversation here with Derek Carr, but you know what? We're going to wait. I want to see what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. What kind of message is that sending to Derek Carr?
I cannot think of a better NFL analogy than a bird in hand is worth 2 in the bush. That expression is happening right now in Florham Park because let me give you the timeline. March 15th is when the trade window opens for NFL teams. Now, Aaron Rodgers could essentially go to the Packers now. They could talk it out, and they could have like a trade in principle that would be finalized on that day. But I guess my point in all of this is the Derek Carr situation essentially just moves up the urgency here. I think that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers could simply say, hey, look, I'm Aaron Rodgers. This is the Packers. We're going to go on our timeline. But really, can they do that? Because this New York Jets situation, if the Packers are going to get compensation, this is one of the key teams to do it. So in my opinion, the Packers and Aaron Rodgers need to move up that timeline. They need to have those conversations now, figure it out before they lose the potential of a really solid landing spot if the Jets instead decide to go after Derek Carr.
Pollard was, to your point, Mike T, sensational for the boys last year. Had 12 total touchdowns, 16 games. He outperformed Zeke Elliott, more rushing yards, yards per touch, all while making $12 million less than Zeke Elliott. So it begs the question, will the Cowboys be able to fix all of these offensive issues? What do you think here, Jeff?
Well, first and foremost, I think most Cowboys fans point to the wide receiver position as the one that they'd like to see addressed. Someone opposite CeeDee Lamb that they haven't had since Amari Cooper was there. But one of the bigger issues that's facing this Cowboys team this offseason is not just adding players, it's retaining them. This offensive line has 2 starters about to hit free agency, another veteran who could be a cap casualty. So suddenly, not only do you want to go out and maybe find that wide receiver, but you've got to manage your own and figure out exactly what you want your offensive line to look like. That is no easy task. The Cowboys right now need to win the offseason if they're even going to sniff a shot at the championship in 2023.
What do you think, Mike? Will they be able to fix all their offensive issues?
Yeah, I think it really comes back to getting a frontline difference-making wide receiver because that makes everybody else them around better. So I'm assuming Pollard's going to be there, but then I go get maybe it's DeAndre Hopkins in a trade, Odell Beckham Jr., maybe I draft somebody. They have a lot of good pieces, but to me, when they lost Amari Cooper, they lost a lot.
Well, and Wood, because when I look at it, and especially me, because I love the Cowboys, I look at that playoff game. I mean, Tony Pollard was hurt. They couldn't run the football. Zeke Elliott looked old. And then from the offense, CeeDee Lamb was the only guy who caught a pass. Yep. Michael Gallup couldn't get open. The rest of those guys couldn't get open. So you got that. Then the offensive line issues. I mean, will they be able to fix everything this offseason? Yeah,
that's a great question. I don't know if they'll be able to fix everything, but here's the one area for me, the offensive line. Like the offensive line, they were one of the worst pass blocking offensive lines in the National Football League last year. We saw they got guys that are really getting long in the tooth. We talked about Jason Peters who was in there. Tyron Smith is getting long in the tooth. Obviously, he came back later in the year and he was actually playing right tackle. They got issues up front, and we know that when we think of the Dallas Cowboys, their core identity is up front. It's like their offensive line and running the football. Well, they got a lot of problems up front. If they don't get that straightened out, it doesn't matter what you got going on everywhere else because you still have the problem at hand.
So then it begs the question, if you get a good wide receiver, let's say you get another running back, will Brian Schottenheimer fix Dak Prescott's turnover issues?
Yeah, I saw it firsthand at the Jets. Dak Prescott led the league with 17 interceptions. 11 of those 17 is when they had the lead or the game was tied. That's unacceptable. You have to know when you can push the ball down the field and when you can't. And I think that's one of the best things Brian Schottenheimer did with Mark Sanchez at the Jets. He did it well with Russell Wilson at the Seahawks. And there's a time and a place that you could take chances. Dak Prescott has to clean that up. I think Brian Schottenheimer will do that.
You were with him?
Yeah, absolutely. He did a really good job with Mark Sanchez because obviously, we were ground and pound, but, when you had a young quarterback like Mark Sanchez was, he had a propensity to turn the ball over, and I thought that Brian Schottenheimer did a really good job of trying to hone that in, not necessarily eliminate it, but just hone it in enough for us to go out there and be successful.
Okay, guys, back here on Get Up with Damien Woody, and we're going to D. Wood's top 5 moves he'd like to see this offseason. Let's go.
Yeah, so let's start at number 5. I'm going to go with Jimmy G. We know that the Las Vegas Raiders, they're going to probably be in on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes.
Yeah.
But they settle for Jimmy G. Obviously, we know Josh McDaniels and Jimmy G have a relationship going back to the Patriot days. This will be a reunion of sorts out in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. How about number 4?
How about number 4? Number 4, we got T. Higgins.
Yeah.
How about this? A trade.
Wow.
New York Giants trade for T. Higgins. Listen, New York Giants, they need a receiver, number 1 receiver in the worst way. We know that in Cincinnati, they got a lot of guys coming up for contracts. They got Joe Burrow. They're going to have Jamar Chase coming up. T. Higgins. Can they afford to pay all those guys? I'm making it as the New York Football Giants make a trade for T. Higgins.
Number 3,
you got
Derek Carr, huh?
Yeah, number 3, I got Derek Carr. Derek Carr going to the Saints.
Wow, okay.
First visit out of the gate was to New Orleans.
Right, right.
This is an organization that clearly feels they have a lot of parts in place. They have a very good defense. They got Kamara. They got Chris Olave on offense. They got a lot of nice pieces on the offensive side. They just need a quarterback in a weak division, by the way. So Derek Carr to the New Orleans Saints makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
Now about number 2, you got Lamar.
Number 2, yeah, we're going with a blockbuster. Why not? We're going with a blockbuster. How about Lamar Jackson getting traded to the Atlanta Falcons? We know Lamar Jackson has been steadfast about his contract situation. He's leaning more towards the Deshaun Watson contract than anything else. And I think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to franchise tag Lamar Jackson. He's not going to play on the franchise tag. And I think this is a situation where Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, he was in on that Deshaun Watson deal, comes around and pulls the trigger and makes a blockbuster deal.
It would be like Michael Vick old days there in Atlanta. All right,
Absolutely.
go to number one then. What's the
number
big
one? Listen, Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. We've been talking about it. You know my feelings on it. I've talked about it all show. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Jets have their eyes clearly set on Aaron Rodgers, one of the all-time greatest quarterbacks that we've seen in the National Football League. Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets.
All right.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.